Good morning. It is Sunday. Now, Sunday is normally a special day, but I remember last week we had that Memorial Day weekend, which meant we had a 3-day weekend, which meant Sunday was sandwiched right in the middle between getting over all the crap that occurred on Friday, especially all the news that international, and to start worrying about what the hell was going to happen on Monday, which didn't happen until Tuesday, which was really kind of nice. The fact is, let's make Sunday the real special day that it's supposed to be. Get into the rotation and let's talk about some shit.
Right. Let's get into it. Let's go. Get into rotation.
Only our engineer just walked away and just took away my.
Yeah.
All good. All good. All good. You know.
All right. So while we're waiting for Carlos to come back, I am Gary Stein, your political director and policy director here at Suncoast NORML, and our Master of Business Administration of Public Health. Insert applause here. And to my right, your left, or somewhere around there, coming to us from Anne Arundel County in Maryland, I think.
I don't know, Gary. I'm in a safe house. You always love to reveal my location to the party.
Coming to us from an undisclosed location.
Oh, man.
In our nation's capital.
Right. With Mr. Cheney is our executive director and master of public administration, Christopher Cano.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, I went to West Tampa the other day. I had a doctor's appointment out that way, and I saw the big Cano Health Department, Health Center, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no relation, right?
No. It's a semi-common name throughout Latin America, but you know, it's just what it is. Free advertisement for the next election. It's the name.
It is rather Cuban out there. For those people who don't know, I froze. You still hear me?
Yeah, we still hear you loud and clear, Gary.
You
still right.
I'm going to take my blur off in just a second, which I think is a blur. Either that or I've already used too much stuff this morning.
Well, I'll say this much. I do appreciate the free name recognition, and folks can follow me on Instagram at Kano, the name you know. So
okay, then get into it.
But let's go ahead and get into this rotation. So it is, like Gary said, Sunday. We're here in the rotation. We have a very special guest with us today, our newest member of the Suncoast NORML Board of Directors, Katrina Pinkk. Yeah. Katrina, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
We appreciate
it. I really appreciate it. I am here for it, and I think Carlos is.
We are semi-professionals, so don't try this at home. I am not actually frozen like that in a highly unflattering position, but at least I know that if they do take a picture of me in an unflattering position, it can't be any worse than the positions that they've been catching Elon Musk at this last week.
That's too funny.
I don't think nobody can handle that.
Who do you know ever has last done a press conference in the Oval Office with a black eye?
Sorry about that, guys.
You had a black eye? I didn't know that.
Yeah, do you know that when you take too much ketamine, you suddenly start punching yourself in the face for no reason?
Or having more baby mamas than Nick Cannon can get your ass whipped.
Ooh, I don't think nobody can have more than that.
Well, I think that the thing that Elon Musk has figured out, of course, is that if you have all these baby mamas and never actually have to have sex with them, just trade straws of frozen sperm, then I guess you're only half fathers. I don't know.
Don't start Michael Jackson into this either. So don't start that.
Well, he had issues with Joe. Okay, all right. Michael said he didn't want any of Joe's DNA passed down to his kids, and so he decided to be a sperm donor as opposed to actually get a sperm donor, so he wouldn't have to pass it on to his kids. Well, of course, his kids are screwed up anyway.
Well, no, remember this. This is the June is Father's Day month, and so if you're a dad out there, be in your kids' lives. Don't beat them. Don't traumatize them. Be a good father, and they wind up being outstanding citizens and business owners like Carlos, right, Carlos?
What I miss, guys?
We were just doing intros and photo opens. Yeah,
did we get all that done? Like,
yeah. No. Because I made sure that we got all the intros and everything and stuff. And we, Trina, we're glad to have you joining us as part of the board of directors. And I'm just so happy to have you be a part of this organization. You have been a regular fixture at our Best Blunt and Debate rolling competitions as a judge. And I'm just glad that you're willing to volunteer your time to be a part of making us that much better as an organization. And so today's show really is all about introducing you to the folks out here, the listeners, viewers, our members, and really getting to know you better and understanding your journey to becoming a cannabis advocate and joining the board of directors here. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you guys again for having me and making me the communications directors. I really appreciate it. But what really how I became more fond of becoming an advocate is stemmed from cancer. Okay, from a personal experience. I've always smoked CBD, cannabinoids, things like that, but when it hit home, it was a personal experience when my godmother had got cancer. And when I found out what it can do to cure and help and, ease the pain and things of that nature, I became more educated on it. And when you and Carlos, started doing your thing, we always was into that, that we used to buy the magazines, we used to do this. So we was pretty much always educated on what it can do. But it kind of stemmed from a personal situation. So once that happened, I didn't stop. So with that being said, I am for the Mary Jane and cannabinoids and things of that nature, but against alcoholism and things of that nature. Okay. So, and I'm not for the abuse of marijuana. But pretty much that's how it all came about. And I'm trying to learn more dealing with the fellas and this guy that we have, Carlos, and you as well, and Gary. Okay. So that's why I'm here to spread the word. And also, I'm also fond of helping criminals with their backgrounds. Okay. Clear the backgrounds, sealing the cases for minor misdemeanors, even felonies and things like that. Okay. Because it shouldn't be that serious.
no, you're right. People shouldn't be thrown in a cage for a plant and be saddled with a criminal record that affects them for the rest of their life. And in Florida, 20 grams or more nets you a felony charge. That's not even a whole ounce. In some states, you have 2 and 3 ounces before you reach the level of a felony charge. And Florida is just so draconian with its laws. We've seen progress on this issue. Governor Westmore, Maryland, who I work with, with my work outside of NORML in my union work, he last year signed an expunge. This year he signed a bill. Last year he signed pardons, but he pardons 100,000 people with records, and they have a bill now to expunge and seal those records.
Correct.
So people can move forward with their lives. And I mean, that's just the right way to do things, and especially when there are people sitting in jail who try to pay their money or pay their bills with weed money. And now you have people making millions of dollars a year paying their bills with weed money, but somehow we forgot about the people sitting in jail.
Correct.
It's crazy to me to see that. And you mentioned earlier about abusing cannabis. I find the American Psychological Association and just in general the field of it a bit offensive to me. They have something in the DSVN called cannabis use disorder. It used to be cannabis abuse disorder, and I remember when they forced me to go to rehab so I could get my record clean. That's what they diagnosed me with, and I'm like, "What do you mean? I never abused my cannabis. Treat my weed so well."
I don't mean it like that. That's not what I mean by abuse.
No, I understand. I find the idea that people abuse cannabis to be just a one of those type of things that's out there in the atmosphere that we pick up. That's the opposition, kind of like inception and talking points. It's like all use of cannabis is medical. The question is, what other factors in your life are affecting you to where you're turning to it? Because not everybody turns to cannabis.
Right.
Some people turn to alcohol, and that's legal, and you can keep getting more and more of it. Sometimes if you're in a state where there's not a legal access, like the way Florida was prior to 2017, you if it's dry, it's dry. You mentioned the old days. I mean, you remember how it was where if there was a major bust in Tampa, all the plugs would dry up.
Right. That's it. A whole drought. For what?
Carlos members USF back in the day. Like,
You know that
I can't find any weed around here.
Right. What's going on? What happened?
It's a really complicated, like the whole idea of abusing cannabis is a really complicated thing. I remember when Gary was like pushing to say responsible adult use, and I was like, nah, that's a bad idea. That implies irresponsible adult use is possible. And then we got into one of our long-standing arguments about that.
No, but that's not what I meant.
No.
You can be irresponsible with absolutely anything. It's what it comes down to.
Well, okay. I get okay. I'm not gonna argue that. I'm just gonna say that the idea of cannabis use is so complicated. It really is completely complicated. And it's easy for one person to look at another person and be like, oh, that's irresponsible. I would never use it like that. But like, if you really think about it, right? So like cannabis itself is complicated. Look what happened. The thing came up on the camera focused on me. Yeah. So cannabis itself is so complicated. You got the cannabinoids, you got the terpenoids, you got flavonoids, you got all these different types of strains and all these different genetic possibilities. But let's talk.
You got hemp products,
cultivars.
Forget about the way everybody's mind works is different, and the way everybody's brain works is different. So somebody that's using cannabis, to fall asleep at night.
No, I'm going to clarify that.
Right?
Give me a moment.
They may look at me and be like, "Oh, he's abusing cannabis, right? He's stabbing 20 dabs a day."
What?
And that's a real critique. Like I remember back in the mid 2010s, there was this big push to really like criminalize and demonize people who do concentrates, right? It was like, oh my God, it's like a meth lab in there. And it's like, no, it's just somebody tried to make RSO on their stove, and that was a bad idea.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, as a human being, we all started out as omnivores, although we started out being hunter-gatherers and basically eating more meat. Then we became agricultural. We started eating more grains and things that we grew and things of that sort. So the question is it possible to have an irresponsible ingestion of meat? I mean, meat is legal, right?
Yeah.
Can you be irresponsible and if you eat like meat and nothing else but meat the entire day, you will eventually get
heavy
gout, among other things.
Yeah.
You're having this too much protein in your diet.
But look at who you're talking about. All right, like you're asking me, a vegetarian, if there's a responsible way to eat meat. I say all, and and look at me. Come on. I'm not a vegetarian because it's healthy. I'm a vegetarian because of ethical reasons. I find eating meat to be unethical.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's all irresponsible uses.
And that's okay.
Well, some people think that cannabis use is unethical.
Well, that's where we get to
the point.
That's where we get to the freedom that is America, right? Like at a certain point, your ethics are your ethics, your philosophy is your philosophy. But then we get to this issue of law. And what should be illegal, what is harmful to society, what is harmful to people. And we all know that cannabis criminalization came out of a political issue. It was never a public health crisis. In the original 1937 Marijuana Tax Act hearings, the American Medical Association said there's no reason to make this illegal. That this is unnecessary. And the way they crammed it through just one committee to get to a floor vote, they take the vote up in the middle of the night. The same things that we see in the current Congress. It feels like they've been doing this bullshit for 100 years. And then here we are with a patchwork of laws, and you have a public opinion is actually shifted because of the work NORML has done over the last 50 years. When NORML started, the population was around 10% supporting legalization. Now we're up to 70% of the American population. It's like, why the fuck are we throwing people in jail again for this?
Right.
Why are we wasting police resources? Why are there chomos walking the street, but somehow pot smokers are the ones taking up police resources? You know?
I mean, and if you think about it, back in 1937, it was approved through Ways and Means Committee, not even criminal justice. That is basically the way they did it. They did it as a tax on the grower.
Right.
That's where it's all started out.
Yeah.
Right. That's when they
Katrina,
started.
great. Thanks for sparking us off. That's how this show goes sometimes. You could just say one little statement and we really delve down the rabbit hole. But it's important for the public to understand and know that everything about cannabis criminalization was about politics and money. It had nothing to do with trying to protect anyone. And the sad part is that we saw the lieutenant governor of Texas right now pushing a hemp ban to outlaw everything that's in that store that y'all are sitting in at the moment in that state. And telling that, oh, if you eat these hemp gummies, you're going to wake up tomorrow and jump in front of a train. Like he said that shit in the press conference this week.
What?
Yeah, we think we got it bad in Florida. At least our governor at some points used to smoke weed and he's not out there advocating.
They didn't inhale. They just.
Well, maybe he's just trying to give Brightline an out for the next time they hit somebody over in South Florida.
I need to clarify how we got where we are about the abuse of the marijuana. Okay. That's not it.
Do me a favor, talk directly to Mike.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So what
rewind. Go ahead.
Right. So what I really meant by that, great conversation though on how to defend that abuse because we really need that. Okay. So I'm for that. But what I meant is like, for an example, not to pretty much drop names, but a rapper. Let's just say a rapper get a younger, just to use an example so everybody can really understand. A rapper gets another idol, they can possibly help become who they want to be, that rapper, a celebrity or whatever the case. Here it is, they're about 16, 17 years old, maybe even younger. You're allowing them to smoke marijuana and on camera or things like that. That's what I meant about abuse. I'm not for that. I'm not for, even watering down the marijuana too much. You know what I mean? Not for the stuff that's going around in the streets. I'm not for that is what I meant when I say abuse and that nature. Not so much like, if you smoke 30 blunts a day. Nah.
But
abuse
can be anything though. I mean, like we talk about harassment in the story and how there's a zero tolerance tolerance policy on harassment. Harassment is really any way you make somebody uncomfortable.
Right.
Carlos, I'm glad you said that because I had a long discussion yesterday with a group of old white guys about what borders on harassment.
Careful, let's not get racist here.
And it's like, if you're in a workplace setting and you tell someone they got a sexy voice, that in the modern era, that's a problem. Maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you get away with saying that shit in the workplace. But in the modern workplace, everything needs to be professional. Otherwise, it's harassment. If you're gonna holler at someone, holler them off the clock.
I at one point had to fire somebody that was newly in the trans community for doing anti-trans stuff. Right. So like, I mean, not to get into the particulars of everything, but there was a situation on camera where that one person was straight up. It doesn't matter what the other the what do you call that, the party that's at fault, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what they were doing beforehand. The victim, I guess you could say, said, "Hey, that makes me uncomfortable. We need to stop talking about it." And then the other person persisted. So at that point, it didn't matter, trans, newly trans, whatever it was, right? This person's uncomfortable. They made it known. That's abuse.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you bring up a good point too, like getting caught on camera, right? Like the snippets. And we don't have the whole context in this day and age of 30-second reels everywhere. But if it's you on evidence, on camera, fucking up, it's like the worst thing in the world for a brand, and businesses got zero tolerance for putting brands at risk in this day and age because, you got to get your money.
So right now we have 4 different people on the show, right? 4 very different perspectives when it comes to cannabis use, right?
Yeah.
4 very different ways. I've seen the weird pipes that Gary uses.
Oh shit. Gary.
No, I no, we all have different ways that we, Gary wants to use that pipe. I want a dab rig that I can spark 30 dabs off in a day. You know what I mean? Like there's very different uses for cannabis. If I were to smoke as little as, somebody that just smokes to go to bed at night, right? To me, that'd be abuse in a weird way. You think about it, right?
I have done dabs with Carlos, and let me tell you, if you're a rookie, doing dabs with Carlos does feel like abuse to your lungs.
I promise do not. You cannot hang. There's no way. But I can't. I got this. This is
My
fine.
wife is 2 floors away from me, and she's laughing. I can hear her down the hallway because she knows this. Carlos gave her her first dab.
I know. He just did. My coworkers the same way. That's
So,
crazy.
so all right. So the show's about Katrina coming onto the board for
And
people.
Katrina's journey in cannabis abstinence.
Wait a minute, are you trying to get us back on track? That's really
So,
impressive.
See how he did it.
let's get some focus back on Pink here, and I would actually like to hear about the first time you smoked cannabis and how that evolved into your current usage of cannabis.
All right. So I think I was 14 and a half, about to be 15. We had kind of like just got settled in Tampa from Miami from Hurricane Andrew in 1992. So this was probably in 94, 95. And my friend girl, her name was, we're just going to call her Grace Jones. All right. So Grace Jones
Names
was
have been changed to protect
Okay. Kiddo's face. Something's going on there.
So me and Grace Jones, we was really, 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 really close. And she, of course, her lifestyle was pretty different than mine. Of course, my mom had a couple kids, 6. I was the oldest. But I found a friend in her. I confided in her, vice versa. And her family took me in as well. So when her family took me in, and we're just going to call her brother the guy. So the guy used to have things that we knew he was, out in the streets with or selling, but we knew they was smoking it and it smelled good. I'm used to this smell. This is where we at. But we saw the calmness, we saw this, and one day we just happened to. She took some from the guy, Grace Jones, and we went our we went our way. And when we tried to roll it up, it was a whole bunch going on, but we was able to get the effect out of what we did do, and that's all it took, So, every time we saw little pieces here and there, it just went from there, and then we started making our own money and that's what it just started from there. I still graduated high school. I was a teenage mom. I made it happen. I did college. I have a degree in IT. So marijuana never really stopped me. It was always the word ganja, as my brother would say in the comments, from my mother and other family, to keep it, I guess, from us. But we knew it was time, and I knew I was going to shine one day. So that's how my story came about. I think we would call that stealing. So we took some, and I don't regret it. The guy, we love you. He found out eventually.
So how do you consume cannabis? Like, what's your routine right now?
Okay, so right now I really don't smoke as much because I'm a grandma now. I have a grandson. So for the most part, yeah. Kason, one time for Kason and my daughter Kayla. Thank you. Yep. And then I have 2 other daughters.
So what's your preferred method of ingestion? Is it blunts, joints? I know Carlos over there giving people dabs.
Oh yeah. Well, right now I'm kind of like mutual. I don't really too much. I'm not prejudiced when it comes to that for the most part because I have a lot of people that do different things. Some people do paper, some don't. Some do paper, a piece of the blunt leaf inside, roll it with the paper. It's a lot of different things. I now smoke with a tip. So when I do go around people, I have a clear tip that I put over.
Very post-pandemic conscious.
Yeah, I might not. I slip up here and there, but it's pretty much with family. So if I get sick, I know, like, hey.
Yeah. No, you can't smoke with strangers like that. You just shit on their lip, cast some shit on the slip,
I mean, yeah, we all yeah, but come on now, all the time. That's the problem. I'm gonna tell you, get that off your lips, shit. But yeah. So like I was saying, I have 3 beautiful daughters. Kayla's my oldest. I have a grandson now, so I don't smoke as much as I used to. But when I do, it's like on my free time. I'm starting to meditate a little more. I'm tuned to self. Yeah. So I don't pretty much do the things that I used to, but I don't really have a preference for the most part. But when I do, it's out of paper lately. It's been
I was gonna say you showed up the last podcast, the getting ready for the blunt, best blunt of the day. You showed up with a blunt.
Yeah.
And so I automatically assume you smoke blunts. Yeah. You remember that blunt Ian showed up with? That was fucking good.
Ooh, ooh, it was like perfect. I was
Alright,
like, you never know that.
So
But he said,
guys, first off, the fact that Ian Beckles did not join the blunt rolling contest, I think he did that just to make sure that there was some sort of competition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I smoked one with him before the contest, like that. He rolls fat, tight.
roll a blunt.
Yeah, just beautiful
I
one.
feel like it
Yeah.
would have been like less of a competition too. So you know me.
And second, being the referee of the contest and Pink as the
Yeah.
judge, right? I noticed throughout the contest you were showing a little bit of compassion in the beginning, and then like you became ruthless towards the middle.
I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, y'all could. Okay, all right, let's go. Okay, I'll give it a 9. But when you come on now, the next round,
the score started going to 1 and 2.
yeah,
really quick.
I couldn't hit it. At least let me.
I think you gave someone I'll try to get someone a 0 at one point. You just gave a 1 for shits and giggles.
It was the lady with the one that sat to the left of us. I don't know who she was.
She was the one. She was the one that was her first time rolling.
Yeah, that was.
She entered the rolling competition.
I gave her a 1 though. I ain't give her a 0.
That's like my fat ass signing up for the Gasparilla 5K. Just like
You could do it. You know, I'll be right there. You okay? No.
I hear your wife in the background.
Oh yeah, no, she's hollering at the baby. He's getting, he's a toddler now, walking around getting into stuff, and Katrina brings up a good point. She's a grandma now. I myself, now that I'm a father, I see it's like I don't get the time to sit back and smoke. Like Carlos, if you ever decide to get married and breed, brother, you're gonna see your ability to do dabs, diminish.
Yeah. I am definitely a little spoiled. Like my coffee table is more of like a dab workstation than it is like an actual coffee table.
Yeah, I got my little area.
Yeah, you can't really like come to my house and sit on the couch and like expect to have a spot to put like a cup of coffee down or something. You know what I mean? It's just I got dab supplies.
There's a rolling tray right where the coffee cup.
So like if I had a kid, I'd imagine I'd have to pick that up.
Yeah.
A couple times here and there, but it's like a certain place because we smoke, so the smoke is different with the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for the most part, but if they want to go to Bahamas because you tell them to get out the room and you want to come here, or I'm on the porch, now you want to come to Bahamas with me? Hey, let me smoke a cigarette and go on over there. And that's about it. That's all I can say.
I'm glad we're on this topic, right? Because we talk about we were talking about responsible use earlier. The politicians love to always cry, what about the kids?
Right.
And there are so many great parents and grandparents out there who still medicate and who can still be great. I mean, for me personally, it takes me back to the time I was at my cousin's first wedding, and it was his first marriage, and he was getting married, and I was there kind of like supervising, watching all the kids, and it's like, as the 30-year-old man, I didn't have anything to relate to a 5-year-old child. But when I was high, I was so childlike and enjoying playing with the kids and having the best time.
It's different. It's different. I don't know. I can't. Some people be like, "Oh, you don't need that. You don't need to smoke to feel that way." You're right. I have this aura and this character. I can go in the room where it's just like bland, right? The moment I come in there, oh, they go pink. It's the part. It's just what it's gonna be. I can hold my own. You can leave me with 1,000 people I just met and could be your family. Leave me there. By the time you come back, you be like, oh, I knew she was going to be able to hold it down on her own. She's good. So that's the kind of spark I bring, sober or not. So all that, look, I'm going to smoke the CBD here and there. That's just that.
Yeah. I like cannabis as a social lubricant. It has enabled me to stand in circles that normally, on a daily basis, I couldn't be in or wouldn't be cool with. I've had the ability to smoke with both blue collar criminals and white collar criminals. I've been able to smoke with politicians and dope boys. Rappers and lawyers. Judges and nurses. Like the gambit of cannabis smokers, is a broad spectrum of American society, and the fact that people who are anti-cannabis try to paint this caricature. Katrina, if you look up above you, Carlos has a poster about the dangers of marijuana from Prohibition. And you see how they're trying to paint the poster. Look, it's clearly a Billy D. Williams looking black dude injecting marijuana into a white woman.
Yeah,
you're like, how many marijuanas do you got to inject before it's...
I've never seen that before.
But these are classic Prohibition posters, and this is the absurdity that we deal with, because
I've
that's
never seen that.
sentiment still exists in the public persona. You know, reefer madness is real.
It's
You
Yeah,
know,
that was the Viper
it's
Man.
going on today. It is
Yeah.
going on today. I promise you guys. There was some, call me a fucking conspiracy theorist if you want to, but there was some sort of shift. You can see it in CNN right now. There was an article that just came out in CNN about how using edibles could possibly be linked to like heart disease or something like that.
Yeah.
What?
And yeah. And this is a news source that started off with Sanjay Gupta and weeds and Charlotte Figge and CBD, and we need to look at marijuana as a medicine. You know, this is the future of health. And now, and I'm willing to bet that I won't do it, but I could do a search right now. I could find the last 3 articles on CNN about cannabis
I'm
to be
sure.
something negative.
I'm
Right.
sure.
And as somebody
sure.
whose main form of advertising his business is through the press by setting up a press release and trying to get into local media, right?
Paid content.
Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna put it out
we've
right
had
here.
issues with that. Hold on one second, though, Gary.
Okay, go
And
ahead.
then local ABC Action News recently put out an article, right? ABC Action News in Tampa Bay put out an article about some study in California that was negative for marijuana use. This is a local Tampa Bay station finding that to be news,
All the way up there.
all the way out there.
Why the fuck?
So there's definitely some sort of shift. My bad, Gary. You got the spotlight.
All right, let's be clear on one thing.
Okay.
Politics and science do not mix well. I'm going to put it out just like that. I mean, in almost every topic you can imagine, especially if you look at the current Secretary of Health and Human Services, he is so inept in his understanding of science, and yet he uses it as a political backdrop for his agenda. So basically, if he wants to say that vaccines are bad for you, he will put up a major report which has false citations and all the other crap that he has done to go ahead and say what he wants to say. And we have had this with cannabis since the very beginning. Again, somebody else, I mentioned this last week, had told me that it was Democrats that made cannabis illegal. And of course, I smacked my head because I don't think that anybody really knew exactly what the vote was back in 1937. I can tell you when it came to the Controlled Substance Act in 1970, it was signed off on every single member of Congress, House, and Senate, with the exception of 6 Democrats.
What?
Wow.
However, it was a Democrat who actually filed the bill in the originally. But then again, remember in 1970, Democrats were in the majority. Basically, if you wanted a bill to be passed, and if Nixon wanted a bill to be passed, he would talk to the Democrats to get it set up. But the bottom line is it was done all across the board. And yet people are trying to bring, again, politics into it, saying that Democrats are trying to do this and the Republicans are trying to do that. Well, politics and science just do not mix because they take the science and they pervert it. Period.
Well, Gary, look, both parties are at fault for the shit show of prohibition that we have. Roosevelt signed the Marijuana Tax Act. Fair enough. Nixon signed the Controlled Substances Act. We currently operate under the Controlled Substances Act. So, if we want to get into a manhood, if we want to get into a pissing match, it's not productive when it comes to the politics. Both parties suck, when it comes to this, because they've both been in power multiple times, switching back and forth over the years, and neither one of them has done anything. And as far as I can count, I count at least 3 pot smokers who have been presidents in my lifetime.
Yeah, right.
And one with a son who clearly smokes pot and smokes dirties at that, because I like to sprinkle a little cocaine. Shout out to you, Hunter.
Oh, shit. There you go.
So it boggles my mind, and it's shocking to me that people want to make it a partisan thing. The hilarious thing, Carlos, you touched on it, was Gary Johnson in it. I believe it was either 2012 or 2016 when he was running for president, and someone threw out one of those same bogus scientific papers in a town hall he was in, saying marijuana can increase your risk of heart attack, and then he keeled over on the floor right in the middle of the conference.
Was he on marijuana?
You know, that man should have been elected president, man. Like, you
Was
know,
he on
can't tell
marijuana
you-
at the time?
oh, come on, yeah. I mean, it just to see you know, and that's the thing. Like, I just it. My wife last night came to me shocked after scrolling through her phone. It was some lady, looked like she had credentials, and she was on a podcast, and she said that if you breed with a man who smokes weed, his sperm's DNA is damaged by the cannabis. And then just a week, 2 weeks ago, I was reading the study that NORML has put out that is highlighting. It's not a normal funded study. These are scientific studies that we uplift to counteract these things that say that cannabis has no effect on sperm motility. Trina, I know for a fact your brother smokes herb, and how many kids he got?
Oh, that's undisclosed. It ain't more than Nick Cannon.
It ain't more than Nick Cannon. But my point is that clearly it's not affecting fertility, and healthy babies are born all the time to cannabis users.
They are healthy, 100% healthy.
Yeah.
So that's not what it's gonna be. We're not here for that. No,
Yeah,
You know,
so
remember,
that's not-
I was going to say
it was
there is
politics. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say this one thing is like when Katrina touched on earlier about she's against the abuse of cannabis, and she clarified what I really got from that was you support consumer protection. You support people being able to utilize their cannabis, know what's in it, know that it's unadulterated, know that it's not contaminated, and that's not what we have in the current system. We have legal cannabis in this state that is booth. That has pesticides sprayed on it, and they don't disclose it. We have cannabis that has mold and aphids in it, and they just grind that shit up and sell it as concentrates.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not right, especially when sick people in Florida are getting this for medical access. We don't have an adult use system. So everybody who is registered in Florida has a chronic debilitating condition that's been certified by a physician. And for some reason, these corporate cannabis actors in the state, this cannabis cartel that we have, can sit out there and just push the bullshit. And on top of it, they can sell you hemp joints that are like, it says 30% THC on it, but it's 29.99% THCA, you know, and the same products that Carlos sells in his shop that they want to get illegal, they're selling at a premium, and you're thinking you're getting some good bud.
That's what I'm saying.
It's fucking crazy. Not to say Carlos don't have good bud. Carlos has good bud, but we all can agree. We all want to smoke some high quality, boutique grown cannabis strains.
Right.
We don't want something that point the threshold for hemp point.
Y'all go ahead, take that off the street. Bub need to go. Ain't
The booth. Oh man, nothing pisses me off more than when someone tries to sell you show bud. It look good, it smells good, and then you smoke like 2 or 3 and you're not high. And it's like I wasted $50 for what?
It smell good. And that guy right here. It smell good. I think I got it. Yeah, I had to grow up. I had to walk by people so it smell, they be like, oh, she got that gas. When you put it in there.
And they got the little container with the magnifying glass. Look at it. Look at them here. Look at it.
You see that sparkle in there? You see that glass?
You see it? Yeah. No.
And nothing happened.
Nothing at all. Nothing but smoke and black ashes all on the blanket.
Oh man. You know what's ironic though is I remember going to the Bahamas and we pulled up. We had a local driver. It wasn't even really a taxi; it was a minivan. And we were like, "Hey man, we want some of that good ganja." And he drives me and a buddy to a convent where the nuns live, and there's like a little drive-through window. And he just go up to the window, and I'm like, so the nuns in the Bahamas are selling the bud. And he hands his big bag of brown stuff. And I'm like, what is this? It's like, look at it, it's all brown, it looks all swaggy. I'm like,
no browns.
Man, I had never been so high in my life. That brown nasty bud had me on fucking on Mars, man.
What was it? Fanta? Was it that Fanta stuff that they smoked?
Man, it was some of that Bahamian brown. Okay, that's all I can call
old days Reginald.
It looked like Reggie, but it smoked. It smoked like Bob. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. Reggie Bush.
So even cannabis, even cannabis itself in this day and age, we were talking about cultivars. You can make really pretty weed that sucks. And I think when you talk about abuse, there is no more abused person in Florida than the patient who utilizes cannabis. Because if you're not in your container and you're sealed and it's treated like a damn like a DUI stop, cops can fuck with you. You know, even with a recommendation.
Yeah.
And
There
I
was,
think
there was definitely like when we met each other, Keno, in 2013, 2014.
2014, yeah.
There was this shift that happened that, when corporate cannabis essentially took over.
Yeah.
That, we were activists for the love of the plant. You know what I mean? We thought everybody should enjoy this plant.
Right.
And there was even like this idea that, like, how could anybody ever form a business that would abuse this plant?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how could selling marijuana out of a legitimate legal store ever be some sort of abuse, if you will? Right. And I guess, Florida figured it out.
Well,
like all shitty political ideas, they start in Florida.
Gary's coming
Yeah,
back
reptile abuse,
at the right time, I think, because there was a point when it was like, everybody should have the ability to enjoy this plant. When that shifted to corporate profits, the profit of the stakeholder, and the corporatization of cannabis has definitely affected the plant in a weird way. And that's a lot to say, really, if you think about it, because for the past 100 years, this plant has been illegal all around the globe, right?
Yeah.
And it's still a big part of our lives. People kept it alive underground. We grew it in our fucking closets and
right in the light with the light. What you talking about?
Yeah.
About the burn.
In India, it's still part of their culture. Like they have government shops that sell bong on their holy days. The rest of the year, not so much, right?
And it took corporate cannabis to really fuck it up.
Right. So Carlos, I have a question for Carlos really quick. So since cannabis or cannabinoids has become like legal here and there, you think it caused more damage to the more educated part of it, or what is really for
sorry, she's
what is really used for?
I think the business is really what screwed it up. I think the corporate entity was really responsible for once the corporate entity took it over, and it was no longer about and I say that too. Like, I realized, like, California in its heyday there was PGRs everywhere. You know what I mean? Like there was harmful fertilizer all over California, but there was still this love for the plant that everybody should be able to take part in this. Right. And I think that's key to really getting the true potential out of cannabis.
I mean, back in the day, when we had legacy growers that were the ones who were actually in charge of the supply chain at that point in time, you didn't see Eagle 20 in the mix in regards to the things of that and the other various pesticides and things to push cultivation to its highest amount of productivity that often comes from corporate greed. Like, just, I hate to even talk about it, Carlos, but in regards to meat production is concerned, you have factory farms versus the fact that you have family farms in regards to how they actually ethically grow their animals and then slaughter them. Oftentimes, it wasn't a matter of pumping them full of antibiotics to make them grow faster, or putting them in cages so they get fatter and you can get more veal out of them. That kind of situation. That is the kind of situation we have with corporate cannabis. Now, back in the day when I started, using back in the 1980s, and so we didn't have any of that issue. So I had the benefit of being able to see that culture versus the culture we have today. And I really did get blindsided when working in Tallahassee to make this legal here in the state of Florida. I didn't see that corporate thing coming. I really didn't. I saw ethical farmers saying, we want to do this right. Let's get the rules in place and let's start farming. I never saw, let's create factory farms, essentially, for cannabis that will use any means necessary to do it cheaper and bigger and get more profit for the shareholders, even if the shareholders are in Canada.
Gary, I know that you just said something really profound, that it wasn't something that we were expecting, but it is something that we've since tried to adapt and protect our members and protect consumers. And we've actually put out a truth in labeling bill this session. And it just goes to show that the politicians did zero. They spent more time trying to put Carlos out of business than protect one sick person in this state. And we had the ability that they could have addressed so many things this legislative session. Hell, they didn't even get the budget passed. They're still working on trying to pass
working on that.
Yeah, I mean,
TikTok guys.
Parade.
Yeah.
They're still working on that. All since the parade.
You know, lawmakers have one job under the Constitution, and that's pass the budget. Any other laws are just gravy on top of the potatoes. You know, and that's really where we're at right now. It's like they could have passed truth in labeling. They could have passed employment protections, so firefighters don't get fired from their jobs when they got to use cannabis for the ailments for getting hurt on the job. They could have passed parental rights, so people aren't having their medical marijuana status used against them to take their kids away, or used against them in custody hearings. There are so many things that politicians could have done to protect everyday Americans, everyday Floridians, and they didn't do jack shit. Instead, they sat up there and they pontificated and they cried, what about the kids? They didn't do a goddamn thing for the kids. And instead, they just try to put solid, hardworking business owners out of business.
Greed.
For greed.
They don't want nobody else to make monies off of nothing. Greed. No. They take it off the streets and they want to put it back on the streets how they want to do it, their way or whatever. It's not like that. It's
and I happen to know that there are a lot of politicians in Tallahassee who do imbibe. They might not say it publicly, but they do imbibe. And yet these are the people who are constantly putting out bills to knock down the market because it's politically advantageous to them. Sometimes they know the bill is not going to go through anyway, but as long as they put it out there and it loses, they can still say they were on the right side of history as regards to putting in this egregious bill. We had a bill that had homegrown in it. It didn't get to the committee.
5 o'clock on a Thursday in Tallahassee, that Capitol gets funky. They think everybody's gone home. Yeah, those guys. I worked there. I was an intern. Those. Gary is absolutely right. The same people smoking weed are the same ones trying to keep it illegal. That scene at Harold and Kumar where they end up crashing into President Bush's house. And he's like, "How can you smoke weed and lock people up for it?" He goes like, "Well, you're a hypocrite too, Kumar." I mean, do you like getting hand jobs? He's like, yeah. Do you like giving hand jobs? No. Well, you're a hypocritizer too, you know. And it's literally it's funny, but it's not funny, right? Like we really got to use comedy to deal with the level of irony and hypocrisy that we
common sense of it. Yeah,
it's just sickening. And so this is what you're getting into, Katrina, by joining the board. It's like this is the fight that you're signing up to be a part of, because this is what we're standing against, you know.
I've been a supporter, so I know how to. I know how 1 second the show can be like this, and then here we go. It's Carlos. All right, there we go. There's a lifeline. There's Gary trying to come in and probably peacemake here and there. Then there's Kano. Then there's Gary back at. Yeah, I've been there.
Well, let's just say that at one point in time, social media was not a thing. We had newspapers, and we had Walter Cronkite, who was telling us the truth, and no one ever questioned him on either side of the aisle.
And Trina pointed out at a certain point we only had high times for cannabis smokers, to really get information. You know, if it wasn't published by High Times, you didn't really take it as legitimate news in the cannabis state.
I didn't want to hear nothing. Listen, I didn't want to hear nothing. How to grow this? How do I grow this seed to be this? So this seed can do that.
That is a good example, though. Like you can really look at the history of cannabis legalization and the original business plan for Chillum. I wrote in a couple of paragraphs in there about how important head shops were towards activism in San Francisco, how cannabis consumers could go to the head shop and get magazines and periodicals about what's happening legalization wise and how they
sign a petition,
sign a petition, things like that. And then look what happened, right? You had fuckers like Daryl Roussan, who was like, oh, we gotta fucking really screw over these head shops. You can't say bong, you can't really talk freely in there anymore, you can't do this, you can't do that. Look at we had Cronkite, right? And social media wasn't a thing. Social media became a thing, and it was all about counterculture. There was a point, there is no secret why this organization has 14,000 followers on Facebook.
And they capped us, they shadow banned us at that point.
We're on 5 Facebook pages right now, and nobody's watching off of Facebook. It's all off of other pages. And
you got to be something. Something that's there.
You brought that up, Carlos.
Was the counterculture, right. And now social media controls the media, if you will.
They
Okay.
learned very quickly that the counterculture was dangerous to the status quo, and Facebook proved it in the Egyptian revolution. I believe that was 2011, 2010. It's like people use Facebook to organize, and they overthrew the fucking government of that
Oh yeah.
country.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and after that,
Yeah, I
the
know.
U.S. and the other governments came to Zuckerberg and was like,
Yeah,
yo,
Mark D. Hey, what we doing?
what's going on, Mark?
There,
And now,
there
and now,
was a point in time when this organization, in order to get 200 people to an event, we just made a Facebook.
That's it.
That's
we
all
made a
we really
Facebook
needed.
event, and 200 people would just show
You're not
up.
posting, you're not
Yeah.
doing it. If you're not
Yeah.
posting about it, you're not doing it. So let's post about it. 'cause
Hey,
Now-
and
That's why
now
we brought
we-
you in here.
now we're
Katrina.
considering passing out flyers.
what happened?
Yeah.
Gary?
You know,
We
We're
need to
going back
rework the
underground.
whole
We got
concept.
to.
Social
We got-
media is in chaos right now, and just so I can put out the word. First off, fuck the Zuck. Okay, I am I am so tired of the way that he has manipulated even just Facebook, which originally brought so many people back together again who hadn't been together for so long. I connected with people I hadn't talked to for 20, 30 years, thanks to Facebook. Of course, my kids got angry at me for co-opting their stuff. I said, well, hell, at least we got you off of MySpace, right?
Right.
this is a good time to bring up
That's the effort
actually
with that thing.
when Zuckerberg made that announcement saying that there was going to be more free speech. They took down our Instagram like the next day.
Immediately.
So our
yeah.
new Instagram is at Suncoast _normal.
There it is. Yeah.
Follow us,
Put the
please.
floor in here.
like our post.
Real, y'all chill out. Chill out. Chill out.
You
Chill out.
know, I mean,
And
but,
that
but
would-
no, it's sad. We're under a decade, right? A whole decade and gone, just wiped out. No appeal. You're like, hey, just one day you get a message, you're permanently banned. No explanation. It's just like it is what it is. And I remember when they restricted our ads. I mean, hell, the first blunt rolling competition, we took our ads for it, and they were like, you all don't get to do ads anymore. You know?
What? I know all that. But anyways, it's the new
What? Yeah, you're the new cast director, so you
we're
need to
gonna
build this from
right,
scratch.
like, I used to be a moderator on Facebook. I'm a rebel on Facebook. I might try to clear some shit up, but then again, my personal page is mine. So yeah, make sure y'all get into it. Follow me, Katrina Pinkk with 2Ks. Throw that in there really quick. But yeah, so back to the communications part and the social media, things are gonna change. We're gonna make it happen. It's gonna be a lot more promoting, but the right way. So you know how they tell you to do step by step. Well, you have to do it this way, do that task. It helps. If nobody knows this, and if you're trying to become anything dealing with social media or whatever the case, just follow the task. Once you follow those tasks a couple times, that'll get you out of the red zone, being in prison and stuff like I used to be, for a couple days on Facebook. So you just have to follow the task the right way, regardless of what we put. It's going to be certain things. It's not going to be hashtags, things like that. We just have to work on that. I think that's what it is. So we got this. No worries.
Are there guardrails for influencers? Do they have to abide by a certain behavioral standard?
Not behaviors so much. Not to cut you off, Gary, really quick. Not behavior, but it's just certain things. If your page is not set to like a age restriction, like if your page is open publicly, and you don't have it set to like 18 and up, it's certain things you just can't post or hashtag or say. Like
we got dinged on iTunes for that. The rotation got dinged because we didn't have it 18 and up.
Yeah, so you can change that and then do whatever the fuck you want to do. It's just certain things that you have to do when you do it. So that's it.
And there's certain particulars too. Like I know the idea of setting this show up where we could like smoke during the show came up, but like it was like TikTok, you can't show smoking whatsoever. Meta, you can only blow out the smoke. Like you can't light it on YouTube, but you know what I mean? Like
it's a certain setting. Trust me, I
gotta get it off camera and come back.
No, you really don't. No, you really don't. Mine have changed. As long as you're in a good status and active with Facebook, you can hit your L and all that good stuff. You trust me, we're gonna get to that point.
And paying for the blue check mark feels like it's a pay to play scheme, but that's what they want. If you got the blue check mark, they'll probably leave us alone more than the
no, they won't.
No, they're more critique. Okay,
so it's not the case. So with the blue check mark, if you pay for it, you're going to be under more scrutiny. You know what I
Okay.
mean? You're going to be
Fair
under
enough.
more restrictions. So you have to read those fine print. So when I think about people that's paying for that, just read the fine print. It verifies who you are. Like, okay, if a person is looking for you, okay, we know that's who it is. That's just about it. That's
Gotcha.
what I get from it. Just read the fine print. It is good
I'm
if
paying
you're
for the fans to find me. Got
yeah,
it.
no, I'm not gonna pay for it. I'd rather for it to come the right way. When you hit the certain amount of
Yeah.
followers, it's certain things that if you have on your page and they're on the violations, you have to go back and delete it. You know what I mean? So your page can be in good standings. If your page is on the violations or restrictions right now or being looked at, that's the problem.
Fair enough.
That is the problem. Regardless of what you post, it could be 1,000,000 views. You're probably gonna get 50 cents for that post.
I think being associated
So.
with my personal Facebook is the problem that all our meta had. I don't think I'm in good standing at all with any meta. So
Just check it out, and they tell you what to do and what to take off. You can also appeal it.
Carlos, they're discriminatory towards fungitarians like yourself.
yeah, right?
Well, that's Carlos.
I pray to mushrooms, baby.
Plus, I think that Zuckerman
Yeah.
actually sends attack chickens to chill them
And
just
now-
to get back at you.
That was
wasn't-
him.
It was an inside job. Yeah, someone sent that attack chicken at you, Carlos.
But we
I
know that
already-
birds aren't real, so they must have
birds are
been
not
attack
real.
chickens that are basically
They're
mechanical.
not real.
Could have been Zuckerberg, could have been Mayor Castor. I don't know who it was, but someone
I
sent
think it
that
was
attack
right
chicken.
thing, but we're gonna definitely look into those rules.
It could have been Rusan.
Yeah. I did call him a chicken shit. And
Yeah,
chicken
there
shit
we go.
Daryl could have sent that attack chicken. That is right. Damn, I never thought about that.
Y'all heard me.
I did try to get Daryl on the show. He said no.
Well, it's okay. Me and the senator go way back of shit talking to each other, so it is what it is. I don't think that crackheads should tell potheads how they should smoke, and he doesn't like being called a crackhead. So
Dude,
That's just
could
like
you
telling the pig
imagine
he's
if
fat.
he was like, "I'll come into studio," and then he's like shows up here.
Oh,
like
man.
how, is he gonna have a panic attack?
Yeah. he'd be like, oh
I
God.
got pills for that. Did y'all inject the Mary Jane? No, but for real, did the fellas hear me? So that's what we're gonna do with some of the posts. If you look
Yeah.
on the page, whoever is the main, who have
Yeah, I'll be working with you on
check
it.
and
We'll-
see what
yeah.
violations, so we can go at those posts only and check those out and change whatever they're asking, so the page can.
Sounds like a plan, and we'll formalize a plan for everybody to make sure they do the right protocols with their administrators. They got to follow XYZ. So we appreciate you bringing us the structure. Like you said, we've been rebels. We've kind of doing our own thing, but we're glad to have your expertise and have you join us on the board. Yeah. So before we go, we're at the top of the news hour. Before we go, just tell the folks at home, how you feeling, where they can follow you, that sort of thing. Now that we got you as a member of the board.
Okay, yeah, I'm feeling good, feeling great. Today is the first day of my birthday, y'all. Check it out. So I'm here for it. So it's the first day of my birthday. But today was it was very pleasurable. I really appreciate you fellas having me here again. I'm glad to be aboard. But you can definitely follow me on my Facebook, Katrina Pinkk, with 2 Ks, not one. 2 Ks, and also on Instagram, that's the real Katrina Pinkk. The real Katrina Pinkk, also with 2 Ks, also the TikTok and also my YouTube. Same thing, Katrina Pinkk. Okay. And make sure y'all follow us here on Suncoast NORML. Is it Suncoast _normal?
Yep, on Instagram and Suncoast NORML on everywhere else.
And Suncoast NORML on everywhere else. And also check out those little websites that's been dropped in the chat. Y'all get into it. Follow us, y'all, because we'll be back. Yeah, we here for it. What's up? Hey.
Well, Carlos, with that, I think it's time for the news. So at the top of the news hour, let's dive right into it. In the state of Nevada, lawmakers have advanced legislation allowing those with past marijuana convictions to become foster parents. This is exactly what we've talked about on today's show, and the criticisms and positives that we're going to uplift. And I think it's important that people realize that lawmakers in both chambers have advanced Assembly Bill 107 that allows those with past low-level marijuana convictions to be eligible to become foster parents. In March, members of the Nevada Assembly voted 42-0 in favor of the measure. The Senate members approved the bill on Friday by a vote of 19-2, and now awaits action from Republican Governor Joe Lombardo. Nevada law currently disqualifies anyone with a federal or state-related drug conviction from fostering the child. Assembly Bill 107 will provide an exception to this automatic ban for those with marijuana possession convictions if the conviction did not occur within the preceding 5 years. It's progress. And again, we talk about what about the kids. The truth is that they're, if you got popped at 18 or 20, now you're in your 40s and you want to become a parent. Like, why should that be held against you? And definitely when there's so many kids in the system who need homes right now, who need a safe place to be, that is definitely positive. So shout out to the lawmakers in Nevada for getting it right. Now, that's Nevada. Let's talk about Nebraska. State lawmakers have killed legislation, which is LB 677, that sought to provide a regulatory framework for the production and dispensing of medical cannabis, despite the fact that 70% of Nebraskans approved 2 ballot measures in November legalizing the use of medical cannabis by authorized patients. And despite that public support, lawmakers filibustered the measure, which sought to facilitate the law's implementation while also imposing various changes in its provision. The failure of the bill will likely delay patients' ability to access medical cannabis products. That means that they're going to continue to arrest people in the state of Nebraska, especially sick people who need access. Numerous elected officials, including the Republican Attorney General of Nebraska, Mike Hilgers, and U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts, have publicly opposed adopting the voter-approved law. So much for democracy in America when it comes to that. And so, Gary, as you said earlier, people give Democrats a lot of shit. I always like to point out what's Republicans now doing the prohibition, regardless of who passed it in the 1930s. So, all right, let's talk about some more shit show of politicians doing wrong. In Texas, members of the Denton City Council, a city of 158,000 people, have repealed the voter-initiated ordinance that sought to halt local police from making low-level marijuana possession arrests. They literally have repealed decriminalization in the city of Denton. City officials voted 4-3 to repeal the law, which was approved in 2022 by more than 70% of municipal voters. Denton is among a number of Texas cities that are being sued by the state Republican Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who argues that localities are forbidden from implementing policies that fully enforce laws related to drugs. So they're utilizing preemption to end the decriminalization ordinances. So this is something for us to pay attention to in Florida, because in Florida, the Tallahassee and the governor DeSantis loves to preempt local cities. They've done this around right to work laws and minimum wage laws. They've done this around giving people who work in construction outside heat water breaks. I mean, they repealed that. So how long before they repeal the decriminalization measures that we at Suncoast NORML have fought so hard to bring to the local cities and counties? So that's a shit show waiting to happen. And this is all on the backdrop of the fact that there is more and more data and more studies come out every day about the medicinal uses of cannabis. And so I want to read one to you now. Preclinical data finds compelling evidence that CBD offers a comprehensive treatment approach to Alzheimer's disease. Now, this is data published in the Alzheimer's Research and Therapy Journal coming out of Spain, out of Madrid. Spanish researchers assessed the impact of CBD in vitro and in vivo models of Alzheimer's patients. And they reported that CBD reduces neuroinflammation, reduces the buildup of the proteins associated with the onset of Alzheimer's disease, and significantly improves long-term and short-term spatial memory, and promotes neuronal repair and regeneration. These multifaceted effects of CBD, ranging from molecular level modulation to behavioral improvements, underscore its potential as a comprehensive therapeutic approach for Alzheimer's disease, as concluded by the study's author. I mean, shit. They sit there and say cannabis kills your brain cells, and here we have actual science showing that cannabis regenerates. So, I mean, when you hear American politicians say this wild shit, I mean, here we are. Now, let's talk about something that's important.
He said
that. Let's talk about something important that to all of us, and especially for those of us getting older. A study that was recently published here in Florida by investigators with the University of Central Florida in the journal Psychiatry show that cannabis use is associated with reduced anxiety and improved sleep quality in older adults. So, and by older adults, the cohort was 55 to 74. So here's looking at you, Gary. Researchers reported that
I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah. Researchers at UCF reported that cannabis use was associated with short-term reductions in pain, depression, and anxiety, as well with improved sleep quality following the night. Subjects' improved sleep was directly related to their reductions in anxiety, the study's authors determined. Maybe it's something about being in your 50s, still working, seeing the horizon for retirement's there, and that the U.S. government is actively adopting policies that don't want you to collect Social Security and they want you to die before you can retire, might give you a little bit of anxiety to stay up at night. And so, if cannabis helps with that, it helps you get to sleep. This is not shocker here, but the fact that this is real scientific research being done right here in Florida, right in Orlando at UCF, and somehow they always say we need to do more research. If you're a politician saying that, that's how I think about you. You're not going to get this at any other news program. You're going to have the person read the news do like this to the powers that be.
Live, baby, uncut.
Now here's another study I think is important, and this is coming out of Canada with data published in the American Journal of Public Health, and it says that cannabis-related hospitalizations actually go down among underage use following adult use legalization. Researchers affiliated with the University of Ottawa and the University of Toronto assessed nationwide rates of cannabis hospitalizations of those 15 to 44 years old immediately prior to following legalization. And they reported that hospitalization rates increased by 2% annually among both underage youth and adults during the 3 years prior to legalization. But following legalization, hospital rates fell among underage youth, but not among adults. The total effect 3.5 years after legalization, a 34% reduction in hospitalizations for those above the minimum legal age. The results suggest that cannabis legalization may prevent such increases for at-risk young people in regions pursuing cannabis legalization. So let's talk about this for half a second. If you think about it, you create a system to where it's legal. You need an ID to get it. The legacy market, if you allow people to get into the business, dissipates. People transition to the legal market, and the legal market, there aren't drug dealers essentially selling to your kids. There's less people having these issues. Now, you're always going to have incidents that pop up. You're going to have unscrupulous people that are going to do unscrupulous things, but it clearly shows that a regulated, robust legalization that allows for a diverse business industry makes all the difference in the world. And we're seeing people waking up to this all across the world, all across the country. And I think that's important to realize. And one place that I want to talk about real quick is the United Kingdom, England, for those who aren't familiar with the moniker. And the mayor of London has now backed marijuana decriminalization after a commission that he created recommends reform. The mayor of London is voicing support for the decriminalization of marijuana following the release of a comprehensive report, the government commission, that ultimately determined that criminalizing people over simple possession of cannabis does more harm than good and disproportionately impacts minority communities. This is ironic because in the 1940s, the mayor of New York, Mayor LaGuardia, had a similar report, the LaGuardia report. And President Nixon commissioned Ed Schaefer, governor of Pennsylvania, to do the same with the Schaefer Commission. And all of that was ignored by the U.S. government. Hopefully, with the mayor of London paying attention, the United Kingdom and their members of parliament will pay attention to this. And so
hopefully, if he is a student of history, he'll remember that England was in charge of the opium trade at the turn of the century in 1900, which basically went worldwide.
That is correct, Gary. England was the first drug empire. They built their empire off of selling drugs, and then they switched to oil in the early 20th century. And here we are today with the shit show of the world that is the artificial borders they drew so they could sell drugs and drill for oil. Shocker.
I thought it was drugs and people.
Transatlantic slave trade is what it is.
Right here,
we're all Carlos. We're all sitting here because of the transatlantic slave trade. I mean, we got two Cubans and an African American woman sitting here. I think Gary's people are probably the only ones that weren't affected by it. So. But I think this is important though, because London is like a major fucking city in this planet. It's one of those cities. It's like Rome, London, Washington D.C., Moscow, Paris. These are the cities that are movers and shakers where if things happen, it has a ripple effect across the planet. So shout out to Mayor Sadiq Khan, for actually establishing the London Drugs Commission and the fact that they're willing to adopt this and address this in a meaningful way. Shocker, England has the same systemic issues around racial profiling and their policing when it comes to cannabis prohibition as the United States. So, I guess we're exporting our Jim Crow laws all across Europe in a lot of ways. And so maybe those people shouldn't be coming to train with the NYPD and LAPD. Maybe, just maybe. Look, one last thing I want to say, and Carlos talked about it today. There is, and we covered it in the news today, there is this real push back against marijuana legalization. And marijuana activists in Oklahoma say that the new ballot restrictions that have been signed by their governor is not going to stop their legalization push. In Oklahoma, they're pushing the same thing that we've seen from our governor who recently signed a bill in Florida that's going to make it harder and restrict state citizen initiatives process. Just about 2 months after the group Oklahoma Republicans for Responsible Cannabis Action revived their push to end prohibition in that state and file an adult use initiative for the 2026 ballot, Republican Governor Ken Stitt gave final approval to legislation that some advocates worry will inhibit future citizen-led policy changes, including cannabis reform. The newly enacted law will put in additional requirements on an initiative's gist language that voters see on the ballot and also revive policies around the signature gathering to make it so petitioners can only submit signatures from up to 11.5% of registered voters in a single county for statutory proposals and 20.8% for constitutional measures. So what does that mean? We got to understand the way Oklahoma's built. Oklahoma has like 2 cities and 80% is Native American reservations and land. And nobody lives in some of these rural counties. So by limiting where the major metropolitan areas are, how many signatures you can get from them, they're literally forcing people to go out into the sticks where you can't walk door to door and get petitions. They're effectively doing everything they can to use the geography. To limit
the Jehovah's Witnesses can go door to door. Just kidding.
The Jehovah's Witnesses ain't got no problems, right? They go door to door. So
not on against it, but I'm just saying, what's the difference? Like that's what I'm saying. It's just be all everywhere. Like a person can do this, one person can't.
I've knocked door to door getting union cards, and I can tell you that there are certain parts of Florida. It is scary to walk down a dirt road and see nothing but stars and bars and yellow snake flags, and you're gonna knock on this person's door. Look, you like, I won't do it. Look, I see your face straight up.
Just to say, my record for keeping a Jehovah's Witness on my porch in a conversation is 1 hour and 15 minutes, and they couldn't stand anymore. They had to get back to their car, so I win those 2.
My dad told me a funny story. My grandfather, who passed away when I was younger, when they used to knock on the door, he would answer it with his cowboy hat and his pistol belt with his pistol right here, just wearing his underwear. And he'd be like, "Come on in," and then they just never came back to the house in West Tampa after that.
I gotta say, at least as far as like the Ybor proselytizers, right? The Jehovah's Witnesses are the best ones because they'll just set up like a sign. They'll be on the corner with a fucking hot ass corner, 100 degrees outside with like a 3-piece suit on, and they'll just smile at you and let you walk by if you don't want to.
Yeah, shout out to the
witnesses trying to hand you a pamphlet, or these guys that come out here on Saturday calling all the women whores and shit.
Oh man, remember the crazy preacher at USF? Remember that guy?
Father Micah.
Yeah, well, allegedly, me and another guy allegedly ran him over with a golf cart.
What?
So, allegedly.
Before we incriminate ourselves further,
right.
I actually
that case was dismissed, by the way, so no double jeopardy.
I actually wanted to ask you guys a question that has to do with the last news report, right? Ron DeSantis is under investigation for the misappropriation of taxpayer money, right?
Shocker.
Or for getting rid of the marijuana initiative. So
and the reproductive rights initiative.
What are the chances that Ron DeSantis could actually see jail time for fucking over the marijuana initiative. And
That's on Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell's the state attorney over in Tallahassee, and it's in his ballpark.
You know, Carlos, you bring up a good point, right? Will Ron DeSantis see jail time? Even if they go to trial, even if they find that he's guilty, even if they convict him, the current administration is just going to pardon him and let him go and let him walk. The current administration has forgiven and pardoned billions of dollars of white-collar crime, of people who have fucked over consumers and retirees and stealing from people's pensions. And the current administration, in the sake of just because they pardoned a few people with drug charges, and got all of us, oh, look, they're doing this. Over here, they were pardoning some of the worst criminals that the government locked up for a reason. For defrauding the public and defrauding everyday Americans. And I just don't see the current administration doing anything in regards to putting Ron DeSantis behind bars in a meaningful way. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, you know, I guess.
What do you got to say?
It's time.
Well, what are your thoughts, Gary? You think DeSantis will go to jail, or you think?
Me personally, I feel like it's all in the politics. They're gonna like slap him on the wrist, you know, make sure nobody else do it again or something like that. But I don't.
I mean, he took $10 million and misappropriated it. But I don't think any got to the Trump administration. So therefore, he may have a hard time getting a pardon because it is very transactional over there, and that's why Trump and DeSantis were not getting along as well as they could have. If he's got an extra million or so, he can go ahead and buy some meme coin. He might just get a pardon.
Good point. You know, DeSantis didn't necessarily pocket any of the money, but the Attorney General of Florida, if I'm not mistaken, did take some consulting fees on that money. So maybe he'll be implemented.
Meyer is about as corrupt as he can come to.
Yeah, so we'll see how it all shakes out. But all in all, that's the normal news. This is where we're at. And
you guys don't see like a little bit of irony there? Like he's going to miss jail time for a misappropriation, millions of dollars. To keep people in jail for fucking dime bags.
Right.
Like,
but I don't think they're gonna
hypocritize it, right?
Rules and regulations.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna jail time him.
We got a felon in the White House and another
felon
guy
in the governor's mansion. We got a felon as the United States senator who pled the fifth more times than Dave Chappelle.
Shit, Dave.
All right. I guess that's the end of the show.
I mean,
well, that's good because I can't take much more.
Gary's Cafe con Leche is running through his guts right now. He got to head on out. I feel you. So.
Oh no! This keeps me awake.
Well, look,
but I do gotta walk it off.
Tune in to the rotation each and every Sunday here at 11 a.m. Don't forget to like and subscribe. For you, it takes half a second. For us, it means all the world. Feel free to share this across your social media channels and make sure that you follow us. You can follow us at Suncoast_NORML on Instagram or at Suncoast NORML all across the rest of the social media channels in the world. And again, subscribe to our YouTube so you can get notifications when we go live each and every week, and become a member of Suncoast NORML. We're only as strong as you, our members, doing what we need to do to make this happen. Go to suncoastnormal.org, become a member today. And if you have a business, if you're in this space, you want to advertise, we're always open to adding more business network members to our website and advertising. And one big shout out before we go, Dab Day. 7/10 Dab Day, July 10th is the day we celebrate concentrates, and they are coming to Tampa. And so it's going to be at the Cuban Club Saturday, July 12th. For anyone who wants to get tickets, if you type in the promo code NORML, you will get 15% off your tickets to Dab Day. I think that makes all the difference in the world. So shout out to the folks at Dab Day. We're actually going to have them on the show later in the month to talk about what's going on. Katrina, thank you for joining us again in studio today and joining the board as our new director of communications. Happy early birthday to you. I know you're celebrating all month, so enjoy it. Have a great one, and we will catch everybody in the rotation.
Yeah, we got some really good guests coming in and business owners coming on the show too. So y'all stay tuned.
Tune in each and every week.
Each and every week, baby. We here for it. Suncoast NORML.
And Katrina was a big part of this. Pink was a big part of the show today, and I will definitely add her to the credits. But